Well, Gary, again away from home, you create chances, you score goals, but you're on the end of a defeat.
Yes, and I don't think you can legislate for some of the goals we conceded tonight. I think they were very disappointing. Just individual errors, really. I'm not going to berate individuals, but we've got to be better than that. And I think if you look at the game, first half, we've created 2 or 3 very good chances. Clayton's in on goal. I think it comes out to Wes and he slips over. Wes has a header, but the keeper does well. We've had 1 or 2 other moments as well. I thought we looked quite dangerous. Our front 2 were a real handful for their central defensive pairing. And then we end up conceding a very, very poor goal, from a set piece. We should pass on. We don't pass the runner on. And the end, Mings ends up getting a free header 7 or 8 yards out. And that was really, really disappointing to come in 1-0 down at half-time when there wasn't an awful lot in the game. And I felt their home fans were starting to get a little bit edgy with the team. And we knew that second half, if we came out, maybe nicked a goal early on, we'd make a real game of it. And then to concede another very, very poor goal. Far too much space behind our back line and far too easy for Sears, I think it was, to run in. I think Darren had a decision to make. He looked like he maybe was going to come and perhaps should have done, but again, they're the fine lines at the moment. We then get back to 2-1 with an excellent finish from Davo. Header arrives late in the box, great ball in, and then we concede another stupid goal. We then get back to 3-2 and look like we've got 6 or 7 minutes to really chase the game. And again, I think they were nervous. They started to put defenders on the pitch, tried to block the game up and make sure they didn't concede another. And then we make a poor error for the 4th one. So I can't fault the character. I think the character's been terrific in both the games. I can't fault the fact that we're creating chances, which is fantastic. What I can say is at the moment we've been far too easy to score against in the last 2 games. And no matter what you do going forward, no matter how nice you look, or no matter how pretty the game looks and how well you pass the ball, if you don't keep clean sheets and not concede goals, you're just not going to win games. So that's something we've got to rectify, certainly.
You changed to 4-4-2 this evening, obviously similar to Ipswich, and that was one of the reasons for it.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that's the only issue when you go 4-4-2. I think what it did is it gave us a ball down the sides and it allowed us to. But we felt they left 2-on-2 quite a lot, or 2-on-1, and they did. And I think it proved us right because we were a little more direct first half, but it worked because we got into some great positions. I think the only downside that you need to try and get players up in support of the 2. And therefore you end up being higher up the pitch and leaving a little bit more space behind the back 4. And we didn't cope particularly well with that tonight. But again, Ipswich have not carved us open with wonderful play. They're a very good side. They're very direct and strong and physical, and they put you under an awful lot of pressure. But we've got to be better than that, and we've got to make sure we're a lot tighter and harder to play against. And disappointed because, we've scored 5 goals in 2 games away from home and had a lot of chances and a missed penalty. And we've still had nothing to show for it.
David Davis with 2 goals, excellent return from a midfielder. That's the sort of play you want from somebody to support the front.
Absolutely, yeah, and Davo does that really well. He lands on second balls and he gets into good areas. He's got great energy, and sometimes it'd be nice to have 2 behind him so he can make those runs without worrying about his defensive duties. Really pleased for him tonight because I think he perhaps felt him and Glees maybe had a point to prove to Mick and Terry, obviously, previously at Wolves and had the pair of them at Wolves. Certainly no animosity there, but I think they just felt as though they wanted to show a point and maybe they should have kept him a little bit longer. But pleased for them. Disappointed overall. Like I said, really delighted with the character, delighted with the fact that we're just not letting these games die and we're not giving anything up without a fight. And I think that fight will carry us a long way this season for the last 13 games. But what we've got to do, we've got to stop making silly mistakes and start taking our chances. And unfortunately, that's what the game's about. If you create chances and don't finish them, then you couldn't argue today that we had anyone else that could have put on the pitch. In an attacking sense, we've ended up with Lloyd one side, we've ended up with Dimmy the other side, we've ended up with Novi and Ziggy on the pitch. Wes played up there, Clayton played up there, so they're all up there, unless we go and sign another 5 strikers, which I don't think is going to be likely. So we've just got to make sure we keep working really hard, and I'm sure this little run of games will certainly turn.